Okay, so I'm actually going to create one additional video here on the problem set for the first one for the cleaning part of the meteorite. I did already create another one for before step 4 that kind of went over that, but I'm going to do this in more detail because I realized after talking to one of the students in this class, and I didn't ask them, so I'm not going to use their name, but that how this just it was so different than what we've done before, it didn't make sense. So I'm going to go through that and show you how I came up with this idea of the audit report. So basically you're running this import SQL, right? You're reading it, that will create this, and then once you get it all working correctly, then you would output it to your proof of work. In this case. But let's actually go through this, okay? Because some of the times there were commands like creating that temporary file that didn't have anything other than text output, and then that's where I just showed you how to do the dot print. But in these, that required you to run, in this case, a select, right, and to use the alias. Now for this first one you only needed to run one query and output it, but starting on this next one then you ended up having 3, and I'm going to show you this in the actual file. But the way I came up with this when looking at the meteorite requirements, where they had listed mass, year, and long for anytime you had NT files after doing the imports, you're going to represent them by null. I wanted you to do them individually. That's why for CS50 step 1, you end up doing multiple steps in the way I wanted you to do it. So let's actually go look at that exam. And again, I've taken out some of the code, but just noted here to give you the idea of what. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm just going to hopefully show you enough to make this more clear. That's my hope. Is that here's my import, and I just did example because I have my other one over here. But then I created the table, and then I just did the dot print to say, hey, I created the table, and then I did dot print to say importing the CSV. Now I haven't given the rest of the code for the import, but I do, and this was a question too, because of the way you send parameters to the import. The student I talked to thought this import shouldn't run in the SQL file, and it should. Okay, so then we get through that, and then you have your first query. So this is just your select query to show the total number of records, and then you're using the alias, right? Using the alias here to output, right, that in using the from writing it into the query. But now, and then you do your first commit, right? So then you have your first commit, and that's why I've named these S1, S2, right? Now in this case, I see where this got confusing because it was like this was your step, but really it was doing this, and I'll go over this now, but it was having all 3 of those queries, and then you could do your next commit. So let's look at this next step, right? Because this is where it gets into the way you do the rest of the file. So now, unlike for this, we're going to look at only mass. So we're going to have first a select statement that we write, a query that we write, using the alias to put, for this, the total records for mass to be updated, right? And this should be this should be the number of records. Again, you use count here to do that, right? And then you do update. Right, and then this is the actual, and again, I'm not showing you all the commands, I'm just giving you the idea, is you run the update to actually now do, based on that same condition that you've written the query in, right, to update it, and then you do another select, and basically you can take the one from above and just change the alias now, and this one, because it's based on the same condition, right, should be 0. Right, and then once you get this block done, then you do your next commit. Okay, so then you continue through, right? So again, if we go back to CS50, you do mass, long, year. Now I did mass, lat, and long to in sequence because they were similar in the sense of the way I needed to put null there because of the way I created the table, and that's when that becomes important. And then using the decimals again, right? Now those I think I ended up writing together. Like I could go look at that real quick. I think I ended up, yeah. So when for these, I did them all together because they were the same data type and it was fairly easy. It was a little bit easier to do that. But also in this case, I wanted you to see how many records, because that becomes important for the next step. To make sure. Now, did you have to exactly have mine? But having them close would be helpful as well. So I hope that's what you see. I hope this helps clarify what I wanted. And let's just end by showing you, and I'm just going to drop this for a minute, right? Because I ended up adding even another step that actually I realized, because I had already updated this prior, because that command I had given you before, and I know that was confusing to some students. But if I wanted to, I could copy this, and what this command will do is if I delete the database, it is going to output to my PO1 my proof of work by reading this. So this is the command I could just use. So let's actually show you that. And that's because once you go through and get that import file ready, and let me just come over to here real quick, right? And I do have my database, so I could run my first one. Now, I probably could also run this one. I didn't even play with that, but let's do this where I delete the database. You'll see it go away, right? Boom, it's gone. And then I will do this, copy that, and when I do that, then boom, it creates all that. I can come over here, and then that is all of my my audit file. Now this is also for the next step, so you'll see that as well. And then for the next step, step 4, you will just continue working on your import SQL to do the last part of this, where you do the ordering, the inserting and ordering, and then this gives you the example. So anyway, hope that helps.